Marcus Thompson walked slowly down the street. His work boots made heavy sounds on the concrete. Each step hurt his feet. His back felt like someone had hit it with a hammer. Sweat covered his face even though the evening air was cool. It had been another terrible day at the construction site. Marcus worked for a small company that built office buildings in Manhattan. Today, like every day for the past 3 weeks, he had started work at 5 in the morning. The sun was not even up when his alarm clock rang. He had to be at the job site before 6. The building they were working on was 30 stories tall. Marcus spent most of his time carrying heavy bags of cement up the stairs. The elevator was broken again. It seemed like it broke every other week. The boss said it cost too much money to fix it properly, so Marcus and the other workers had to use the stairs. 30 stories. Up and down. Up and down. All day long. His legs felt like they were going to fall off. His arms ached from carrying the heavy bags. The bags weighed 50 pounds each. Marcus had to carry at least 40 bags today. That was 2,000 pounds of cement, all carried up 30 flights of stairs. But that was not the worst part of the day. The worst part was dealing with his boss, Mr. Rodriguez. The man was always angry about something. Today he was angry because the work was going too slow. Yesterday he was angry because someone took too long for lunch. The day before that he was angry because it was raining. Mr. Rodriguez had yelled at Marcus 3 times today. The first time was at 7 in the morning. Marcus had stopped to drink some water. It was already hot outside and Marcus was sweating. Mr. Rodriguez saw him drinking water and started shouting. "What are you doing?" Mr. Rodriguez had screamed. "This is not break time. You just got here. Get back to work." Marcus tried to explain that he was thirsty, but Mr. Rodriguez did not want to hear it. He told Marcus that if he wanted to drink water, he could do it on his own time, not on company time. The second time Mr. Rodriguez yelled was at lunch. Marcus was eating a sandwich that his girlfriend Maria had made for him. It was a simple sandwich with ham and cheese, but it was good and Marcus was hungry. He had not eaten anything since 5 in the morning. Mr. Rodriguez came over and looked at his watch. "You have been eating for 22 minutes, he said. "Lunch is only 20 minutes. Get back to work now." Marcus looked at his own watch. Mr. Rodriguez was right, but it was only 2 extra minutes. Marcus thought that was not a big deal, but Mr. Rodriguez thought it was a very big deal. He made Marcus work an extra 30 minutes at the end of the day to make up for those 2 minutes. The third time was the worst. Marcus was carrying a bag of cement up to the 15th floor. The bag was heavier than usual. When he got to the top, he had to rest for a minute. His heart was beating very fast. He felt dizzy. He sat down on a pile of wood and put his head in his hands. That was when Mr. Rodriguez found him. The man's face was red with anger. "Are you sleeping on the job?" he shouted. "I am not paying you to take naps." Marcus tried to explain that he just needed a minute to catch his breath, but Mr. Rodriguez did not care. He said that if Marcus could not do the job, he could find someone else who could. There were plenty of people who wanted work. Good workers who would not complain or take breaks every 5 minutes. Marcus did not say anything back. He needed this job. His rent was due next week. His girlfriend Maria was in school, so she could not work full-time. They needed the money from his job to pay for everything. Food, rent, electricity, water, everything cost money, and this job was the only way Marcus could get money. So he had worked for 12 hours straight. No breaks except for that 22-minute lunch. No water breaks. No rest breaks. Just work, 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 carrying heavy bags up and down 30 floors. His hands were covered in cuts from the rough cement bags. His clothes were dirty and torn. Now it was 6:15 in the evening. Marcus was finally done with work. All he wanted to do was go home. Home to his small apartment in Queens. Home to Maria, who would have dinner ready. Home to his couch where he could sit down and not move for the rest of the night. But first he had to take the subway. Marcus hated the subway during rush hour. It was always crowded. People pushed and shoved to get on the train. Everyone was in a hurry to get home just like him. But Marcus was too tired to walk home. It would take 2 hours to walk from Manhattan to Queens. The subway would get him home in 40 minutes. Marcus walked down the steps into the subway station. The air was hot and smelled like dirt and metal. Hundreds of people were waiting for the train. They all looked tired and unhappy, just like Marcus. Some were wearing nice suits and dresses. They worked in offices where they sat in chairs all day. Marcus thought those people did not know what real work was like. The train arrived with a loud screech. The doors opened and people rushed forward. Everyone wanted to get on first. Marcus pushed his way through the crowd. His body hurt, but he needed to get a seat. If he had to stand for 40 minutes, his legs might give out. He looked around the train car. Most of the seats were already taken. But there, in the middle of the car, was one empty seat. Marcus moved quickly toward it. A woman in a business suit was also walking toward the same seat, but Marcus was bigger and faster. He reached the seat first and sat down heavily. The woman gave him an angry look. But Marcus did not care. He had been working hard all day while she was probably sitting in an air-conditioned office. She could stand for a few minutes. Marcus closed his eyes and tried to relax. His whole body hurt, but at least he was sitting down. The train started moving. More people got on at each stop. Soon the car was packed with people. Marcus kept his eyes closed. He did not want to see all the people standing around him. He knew some of them probably wanted his seat, but he was not going to give it up. He had earned this seat with 12 hours of hard work. Marcus thought about home. In 30 more minutes he would be there. Maria would smile when he walked through the door. She would ask him about his day and he would tell her it was fine. He never told her about Mr. Rodriguez yelling at him. He did not want her to worry. She had enough stress with school. After dinner, Marcus would take a hot shower. The hot water would help his sore muscles feel better. Then he would watch TV with Maria until he fell asleep. Tomorrow, he would have to get up at 5 in the morning and do it all again. But right now, he just wanted to rest. The train slowed down as it approached the next station. Marcus opened his eyes for a second to see where they were. Still 20 minutes from home. He closed his eyes again and tried to ignore the noise and the crowd around him. All he wanted was to get home and forget about this terrible day. The subway train stopped with a loud screech. The doors opened with a hissing sound. Marcus kept his eyes closed. He did not want to see more people getting on the train. The car was already too crowded. People were standing very close to each other. Some were holding on to the metal bars above their heads. Others were leaning against the doors. Marcus heard footsteps as new passengers got on the train. Someone bumped into his leg, but he did not open his eyes. He just moved his leg a little bit. A woman was talking loudly on her phone about her work meeting. A baby was crying somewhere in the car. The sounds all mixed together into one big noise that hurt Marcus's head. He tried to think about something else. Something good. Maybe Maria had made his favorite dinner tonight. She sometimes made chicken with rice and beans. It was simple food, but it tasted good after a long day of work. Or maybe they could watch a movie together. Something funny that would make him laugh and forget about Mr. Rodriguez and the cement bags and the 30 flights of stairs. The train started moving again. Marcus felt it pick up speed as it went through the dark tunnel. The wheels made a clicking sound on the tracks. Click, 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 click. It was almost like music. Marcus felt his body start to relax a little bit. His muscles were still sore, but sitting down helped. Then someone stopped right in front of him. Marcus could sense the person standing there even with his eyes closed. The person was not moving. They were just standing there very close to Marcus's seat. Marcus hoped the person would go away. There were other places to stand in the train car, but the person did not go away. Marcus heard a voice. It was a man's voice. The voice sounded tired like Marcus felt, but it was also polite and soft. "Excuse me," the voice said. "Would you mind if I sat down? I've had a long day." Marcus opened his eyes slowly. He looked up at the man who was talking to him. The man was tall, maybe 6 feet. He was wearing nice clothes. A dark blue jacket that looked expensive, clean pants with no holes or stains, nice shoes that were not covered in dirt and cement dust like Marcus's boots. The man was also wearing a baseball cap. It was pulled down low over his face. He had on dark sunglasses, which was strange because they were underground in the subway. The man's face looked familiar, but Marcus could not place where he had seen it before. Maybe the man worked in one of the office buildings that Marcus helped to build. Marcus looked at the man's clothes again. Everything looked expensive. The jacket probably cost more than Marcus made in a week. The shoes looked like they were made of real leather. This was clearly a rich man, someone who had never worked with his hands, someone who had never carried 50-pound bags up 30 flights of stairs. Marcus felt angry. Here was this rich guy asking for Marcus's seat. The guy probably worked in an office with air conditioning. He probably had a secretary to get him coffee. He probably took long lunch breaks and went home at 5 o'clock every day. And now he wanted Marcus to give up his seat? Get in line, buddy, Marcus said. His voice sounded more angry than he meant it to, but he was too tired to care. I've been working since 5 in the morning. The man in the expensive clothes did not say anything for a moment. He just stood there looking down at Marcus. Marcus could not see the man's eyes because of the dark sunglasses, but he could tell the man was surprised by his answer. Oh, the man said finally. I understand. No problem. The man stepped back a little bit. He did not seem angry. He did not start yelling like Mr. Rodriguez would have done. He just accepted Marcus's answer and moved away. He found a spot to stand near the door of the train car. Marcus closed his eyes again. He felt a little bit bad about being rude to the man. His mother had always taught him to be polite to people, but he was just too tired to care about being polite. He had been polite to Mr. Rodriguez all day, even when the man was yelling at him. He had been polite to the rude customers who complained about the noise from the construction site. He had been polite to everyone all day long. Now he just wanted to sit in peace. The train kept moving through the tunnel. Marcus tried to go back to thinking about dinner with Maria, but he kept thinking about the man in the expensive clothes. There was something about him that seemed different. Most rich people would have gotten angry when Marcus refused to give up his seat. They would have demanded to speak to a manager or called security. But this man had just said no problem and walked away. Marcus opened his eyes a little bit and looked around the train car. He could see the man standing near the door. The man was holding on to one of the metal bars. He was swaying back and forth as the train moved. Even though he was standing, he did not look uncomfortable. He looked like he was used to riding the subway. That was strange, Marcus thought. Rich people usually did not ride the subway. They took taxis or had their own cars with drivers. Why would someone with such expensive clothes be riding the subway during rush hour? Marcus looked at the other passengers in the train car. Most of them looked tired, like him. They were probably going home from work, too. Some were reading books or looking at their phones. Others were just staring at nothing, lost in their own thoughts. But a few people were looking at the man in the expensive clothes. A teenage girl was staring at him with her mouth open. She looked excited about something. An older woman was whispering to her friend and pointing at the man. A young guy with headphones around his neck was also staring. Marcus wondered what was so interesting about this man. Sure, his clothes were nice, but there were other people on the train wearing nice clothes too. There were other business people going home from their office jobs. Why was everyone looking at this particular man? The man seemed to notice that people were staring at him. He pulled his baseball cap down lower over his face. He turned toward the window, trying to avoid eye contact with the other passengers. This made Marcus even more curious. Why was the man trying to hide his face? The teenage girl started walking toward the man. She looked nervous but excited. She had her phone in her hand. Marcus watched as she approached the man. "Excuse me," the girl said to the man. Could I maybe get a picture with you?" The man looked at the girl. He smiled, but it was a tired smile. "I'm sorry," he said politely. "I'm just trying to keep a low profile today. I hope you understand." The girl looked disappointed, but she nodded. "Oh, okay. I understand. But could you maybe just sign something? I don't have any paper, but maybe you could sign my phone case." The man looked around the train car. More people were starting to notice the conversation. Some were pulling out their phones. The man looked uncomfortable with all the attention. "I really appreciate that you're a fan," the man said to the girl, "but I'm trying to have a quiet ride home. Maybe another time?" The girl smiled and nodded. "Of course. I totally get it. Thanks for being so nice about it." She walked back to where she had been standing, but she kept looking at the man with stars in her eyes. Marcus was confused. Why would someone want a picture with this man? And why would they want his autograph? Marcus looked at the man again, trying to figure out what was so special about him. The man was tall and had broad shoulders. His jaw was strong, even though most of his face was hidden by the cap and sunglasses. There was something familiar about him, but Marcus still could not place where he had seen him before. The older woman who had been whispering to her friend was now talking louder. She was not trying to keep her voice down anymore. "I'm telling you, that's definitely him," she said to her friend. "I would recognize him anywhere, even with the hat and glasses. Are you sure?" her friend asked. "He looks different in person." "I'm positive," the older woman said. My granddaughter has posters of him all over her room. I've seen his face 1,000,000 times. Marcus tried to listen to more of their conversation, but the train was noisy. He could not hear everything they were saying. But he caught a few words. Something about movies. Something about being famous. Marcus looked at the man again. Could this guy be some kind of actor or celebrity? That would explain why people wanted pictures with him. And it would explain why he was trying to hide his face. But if the man was really famous, why was he riding the subway? Famous people had lots of money. They could afford to take taxis or hire drivers. They did not need to ride the crowded subway with regular working people like Marcus. The train began to slow down as it approached the next station. Marcus looked at the map above the windows. They were still 15 minutes away from his stop in Queens. The man in the expensive clothes was also looking at the map. Marcus wondered where the man was going. The doors opened and a few people got off the train. But even more people got on. The car became even more crowded. People were pressed together like sardines in a can. The man in the expensive clothes was pushed closer to Marcus's seat. He was now standing right next to Marcus again. Marcus could smell the man's cologne. It smelled expensive like everything else about him. Marcus looked down at his own dirty work clothes. His shirt was stained with sweat and cement dust. His boots were covered in mud. He probably smelled like sweat and hard work. He felt embarrassed about how he looked compared to this well-dressed man. But then Marcus remembered how tired he was. The subway train rocked back and forth as it moved through the dark tunnel. Marcus kept his eyes closed, but he could feel the man in expensive clothes standing right next to his seat. The man was not saying anything, but Marcus could sense him there. Sometimes the man would shift his weight from one foot to the other. When the train turned a corner, the man would hold on to the metal bar above Marcus's head. Marcus tried to ignore him. He tried to think about getting home to Maria, but it was hard to relax with someone standing so close to him. Especially someone who had asked for his seat. Marcus felt guilty about saying no, but he also felt angry. Why should he give up his seat to some rich guy who probably had an easy job? The train stopped at another station. More people got on. The car was now so crowded that people were pressed against each other. A woman with a large purse bumped into Marcus's shoulder. A man with a briefcase stepped on Marcus's foot. But the man in expensive clothes did not move away from Marcus's seat. He stayed right there holding on to the bar. Marcus opened his eyes and looked around. More people were staring at the man in expensive clothes. It was not just a few people anymore. Almost everyone in the train car was looking at him. Some people were trying to be sneaky about it. They would look at him for a few seconds, then look away when he turned his head. Others were not trying to hide it at all. They were staring right at him. A group of teenagers near the door were whispering to each other and pointing. An older man was taking pictures with his phone, trying to be quiet about it. A woman with her young son kept looking at the man and then whispering something to her child. Marcus was getting annoyed by all the attention. He just wanted a quiet ride home, but everyone in the train car seemed to be excited about something. The whispers were getting louder. More people were pulling out their phones. The man in expensive clothes looked uncomfortable. He kept pulling his baseball cap down lower and turning away from the cameras. "Mom, is that really him?" Marcus heard a little boy ask his mother. "Shh," the mother said. "Don't point. It's not polite. But Mom, he's my favorite superhero." "I know, sweetie. But he's just trying to ride the train like everyone else. We should leave him alone." Marcus was confused. Superhero? What were they talking about? He looked at the man in expensive clothes again. The man was tall and had broad shoulders, but he did not look like a superhero. He looked like a regular person in nice clothes. A young woman near the back of the train was talking loudly to her friend on the phone. "You're not going to believe who's on my train right now," she said. "I'm serious. He's right here. I can see him. He's wearing a hat and sunglasses, but I know it's him." Marcus could hear the friend on the other end of the phone asking questions, but he could not make out the words. "I know," the woman continued. "I can't believe it either. He looks just like he does in the movies. Maybe a little older, but still so handsome." Movies? Marcus thought. So the man really was some kind of actor. That explained why everyone wanted pictures with him. Marcus had never been interested in movies or famous people. He was too busy working to watch many movies. But he could see why people would be excited to see a real actor on the subway. The man in expensive clothes seemed to hear the woman talking about him. He looked uncomfortable. He turned toward the window and pulled his jacket collar up higher around his neck. But this only made more people notice him. Someone near the front of the train pointed at him and whispered something to their friend. Marcus felt a little bit sorry for the man. It must be annoying to have everyone staring at you and taking pictures. Marcus liked his privacy. He could not imagine what it would be like to have strangers recognize him everywhere he went. But then Marcus remembered how tired he was. How hard he had worked all day. This actor guy might be uncomfortable, but at least he had an easy job. Acting in movies was not real work. It was just pretending. Marcus had to carry heavy cement bags up 30 flights of stairs. That was real work. The teenage girl who had asked for a picture earlier was now talking to her friends. They were all looking at the man and giggling. "I told you it was him," the girl said. "My sister is never going to believe this. I should have gotten that picture." "You should ask him again," one of her friends said. "No, he said he wanted to keep a low profile. I don't want to bother him." "But this might be your only chance to meet him." "I know, but he was really nice about saying no." "I don't want to be rude." Marcus was surprised that the girl was being so respectful. Most people would have kept asking for pictures, especially if they thought the man was famous. But this girl was leaving him alone because he had asked her to. The older woman who had been talking about the man earlier was now talking even louder. She was not trying to whisper anymore. "I'm telling you, Sarah, that's Hugh Jackman," she said to her friend. "He's the one who plays Wolverine in those superhero movies. My grandson loves those movies." Hugh Jackman? Marcus had heard that name before. He tried to remember where. Maybe Maria had mentioned it. She liked to watch movies more than Marcus did. She sometimes talked about actors and actresses that she thought were good-looking or talented. Marcus looked at the man again. Hugh Jackman. The name sounded familiar, but Marcus could not remember what the actor looked like. He had seen some of those superhero movies, but he usually fell asleep during them. They were too long and had too much action. Marcus preferred simple movies with clear stories. But if this really was Hugh Jackman, then he was a very famous actor. Marcus remembered that the Wolverine movies made a lot of money. The actor probably made millions of dollars for each movie, which made Marcus even more confused about why he was riding the subway. A man in a business suit was now openly staring at Hugh Jackman and talking on his phone. "Dude, you're not going to believe this," the man said. "I'm on the subway with Hugh Jackman." "Yeah, the Wolverine guy. He's like 10 feet away from me." Hugh Jackman heard this and looked even more uncomfortable. He moved closer to the window and turned his back to most of the train car. But people could still see him, and they were not being quiet about recognizing him anymore. "Should we ask for an autograph?" one person asked their friend. "I don't know. He seems like he wants to be left alone. But when will we ever get another chance like this?" "That's true. Let's wait and see if anyone else approaches him first." Marcus was getting annoyed by all the noise and excitement. All he wanted was a quiet ride home. But now the whole train car was buzzing with whispers and phone calls. People were moving around trying to get closer to Hugh Jackman. Some were taking pictures from far away. Others were sending text messages to their friends. The train stopped at another station. A few people got off, but many more got on. Some of the new passengers immediately noticed Hugh Jackman. Word was spreading quickly through the train car. "Is that really him?" Marcus heard someone ask. "Yeah, I think so. Everyone's been talking about it. Wow, I've never seen a famous person on the subway before." "Me neither." "Should we say something to him?" Marcus looked at Hugh Jackman. The actor was now surrounded by people, even though they were trying to give him some space. He was holding onto the metal bar above Marcus's head with both hands. His knuckles were white from gripping so tight. He looked tired and stressed. For a moment, Marcus felt bad about not giving the man his seat. If Hugh Jackman really was as famous as everyone seemed to think, then he probably did have a long day. Making movies was probably hard work, even if it was not the same kind of physical work that Marcus did. But then Marcus remembered Mr. Rodriguez yelling at him. He remembered carrying those heavy cement bags. He remembered working for 12 hours without a real break. Hugh Jackman might be tired, but he probably got to sit in comfortable chairs between scenes. He probably had people bringing him food and drinks. He probably had a nice trailer to rest in. Marcus closed his eyes again and tried to block out all the noise and excitement around him. The train was still moving toward Queens. In just 10 more minutes, he would be home. He could deal with a famous person and excited fans for 10 more minutes, but the noise was getting louder. More people were recognizing Hugh Jackman. Someone near the back of the train was trying to get everyone's attention. "Hey, everyone, be cool," the person shouted. "Let the man ride in peace." But this only made more people look over and notice what was happening. Soon almost everyone in the train car knew that Hugh Jackman was there. Some people were being respectful and keeping their distance, but others were trying to get closer. A few people were still taking pictures with their phones. Hugh Jackman looked like he wanted to disappear. He kept his head down and his eyes focused on the floor. But there was nowhere for him to go. The train car was too crowded. He was stuck there just like everyone else. Marcus opened his eyes and looked up at the actor. Hugh Jackman was right above him, holding onto the bar. Marcus could see that the man's hands were shaking a little bit, maybe from being tired or maybe from being nervous about all the attention. For just a moment, Marcus thought about standing up and offering his seat. But then he remembered how rude the man had been. He had not said please when he asked for the seat. He had just assumed that Marcus would give it to him. Rich people always thought they deserved special treatment. The subway train slowed down and stopped at the next station. The doors opened with their usual hissing sound. A few people got off, but many more people got on. The train car was now packed so tight that people could barely move. Marcus felt someone's elbow in his back. A woman's purse was pressing against his shoulder. But he kept his eyes closed and tried to ignore the crowd. The whispers about Hugh Jackman were getting louder and more excited. It seemed like everyone in the train car now knew that a famous actor was standing right there among them. Marcus could hear people talking on their phones, telling their friends about what was happening. "I swear it's really him," one woman was saying. "I'm looking right at him. He's taller than I thought he would be." "No way," Marcus heard the person on the other end of the phone say. The voice was loud enough that he could hear it through the phone speaker. "Are you serious? Hugh Jackman is on your train?" "Yes, I'm not making this up. He's wearing sunglasses and a hat, but I can tell it's him." Marcus was starting to get curious about what Hugh Jackman actually looked like. He had heard the name many times now, and everyone seemed very excited about seeing him. Marcus knew that Wolverine was a popular character, but he had never paid much attention to the actor who played him. An elderly woman sitting across from Marcus was talking to her friend. She was not trying to keep her voice down at all. She was speaking loudly like many older people do. "That's Hugh Jackman," she said, pointing directly at the man standing above Marcus. "The Wolverine!" "I know it's him." Her friend, another elderly woman, squinted at Hugh Jackman through her thick glasses. "Are you sure, Dorothy?" the friend asked. "He doesn't look like Wolverine to me. Wolverine has those metal claws and that wild hair." "Oh, Helen, that's just in the movies," Dorothy said, laughing. "He's an actor. He doesn't really have metal claws. But look at his face. Look at that strong jaw. That's definitely him." Marcus opened his eyes and looked at the two old ladies. Dorothy was still pointing at Hugh Jackman with excitement. Helen was still squinting, trying to get a better look. "I don't know," Helen said. "He looks different from the movies. Older, maybe." "Of course he looks older," Dorothy said. "Those movies came out years ago. People age, Helen. But that's definitely Hugh Jackman. I would bet my life on it." Marcus looked up at Hugh Jackman again. The actor was trying to ignore the attention, but it was impossible. Too many people were staring at him and talking about him. Marcus could see that the man's jaw was indeed very strong and square. His shoulders were broad, even under the expensive jacket. He was definitely tall and looked like he was in good shape. But Marcus still was not completely convinced. Lots of men had strong jaws and broad shoulders. That did not necessarily mean this was a famous actor. Maybe people were just getting excited over nothing. Maybe this was just a regular guy who happened to look a little bit like Hugh Jackman. A young man standing near the door was now talking loudly to his friend. "Dude, that's totally Wolverine," he said. "I've seen all the X-Men movies like 10 times each. I know what he looks like." "Really?" his friend asked. "I thought he was taller in the movies. That's because of camera angles and stuff. But look at his face, man. Even with the sunglasses, you can see those cheekbones. And look at how he stands. That's exactly how Wolverine stands." Marcus looked at how Hugh Jackman was standing. The actor was holding onto the metal bar with both hands, his feet spread apart for balance. He did look confident and strong, even though he was clearly uncomfortable with all the attention. More people were joining the conversation now. A teenager with bright pink hair was talking excitedly to anyone who would listen. "My mom loves him," she said. She has all his movies. She says he can sing and dance too, not just act. He was in some musical on Broadway. Really? Someone asked. I thought he just did action movies. No, he does all kinds of stuff. He's like a triple threat. Acting, singing, dancing. My mom says he's the most talented actor in Hollywood. Marcus was surprised to hear this. He thought Hugh Jackman only did superhero movies. He did not know the actor could sing and dance. That actually sounded like it might be harder than just acting in action movies. A middle-aged man in a construction helmet was also listening to the conversation. Marcus recognized the man as a fellow construction worker. The man caught Marcus's eye and shook his head. These people are crazy, the construction worker said quietly to Marcus, getting all excited over some actor. Like he's better than the rest of us or something. Marcus nodded in agreement. He was glad to hear someone else who was not impressed by all the celebrity excitement. Regular working people understood what really mattered in life. Hard work, family paying the bills. Not movies and fame, but then Dorothy, the elderly woman, spoke up again. She was now looking directly at Marcus. Young man, she said to Marcus, you should give that nice actor your seat. He's probably had a very long day at work, just like you. Marcus felt his face get hot with embarrassment. Now everyone was looking at him. He could feel their eyes on him. Some people were nodding in agreement with Dorothy. Others were just watching to see what he would do. I asked him already, Hugh Jackman said quietly. He said no. It's okay. Well, that's not very polite, Dorothy said, looking disappointed in Marcus. Haven't you ever heard of respecting your elders? Or being kind to tired people? Marcus felt even more embarrassed. But he also felt angry. Why was this old lady making him feel bad? He had worked hard all day too. Probably harder than any actor ever worked. And Hugh Jackman was not elderly. He looked like he was in his 50s, but he was clearly in good shape. He could stand for a few more minutes. I've been working since 5 this morning, Marcus said, his voice louder than he intended. I'm tired too, but he's famous, Dorothy said, as if that settled the matter. He brings joy to millions of people. He deserves our respect. Marcus did not know what to say to that. He looked around the train car. Some people were nodding in agreement with Dorothy. Others looked like they understood Marcus's point of view. A few people were still taking pictures with their phones, trying to capture the drama. Hugh Jackman looked very uncomfortable now. He clearly did not want to be the center of an argument. He tried to move away from Marcus's seat, but there was nowhere to go in the crowded train car. Please, Hugh Jackman said to Dorothy. It's really okay. I don't need the seat. Thank you for being so kind, but let's not make this into a big deal. But it was already a big deal. More people were getting involved in the conversation. A woman with a baby was saying that pregnant women and parents should get seats first. A man with a cane was saying that disabled people should have priority. A group of teenagers was arguing about whether fame made someone more important than regular people. Marcus just wanted everyone to stop talking and leave him alone. He closed his eyes again and tried to pretend that none of this was happening. But he could still hear all the voices around him. Everyone had an opinion about what he should do. In my day, young people had more respect, an old man was saying. He paid for his ticket just like everyone else, a woman argued. He has the right to sit down. But it's Hugh Jackman, someone else said. This is like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be nice to a celebrity. Marcus opened his eyes and looked up at Hugh Jackman again. The actor was looking down at him now. Even with the dark sunglasses, Marcus could tell that the man was tired. Really tired, the kind of tired that Marcus felt after a long day of hard work. For a moment, Marcus felt like he really was looking at a regular person, not a celebrity. Just a tired man who wanted to sit down, like Marcus wanted to sit down. Maybe they were not so different after all. But then Marcus remembered how much money actors made. Hugh Jackman probably made more money for one movie than Marcus made in his whole life. The actor could afford to take a taxi or hire a driver. He did not have to ride the subway like regular people. He was choosing to ride the subway, maybe just for fun or to feel normal. That was different from Marcus, who had to ride the subway because he could not afford anything else. The train was approaching Marcus's neighborhood now. Just one more stop and he would be home. He decided to keep his seat for the last few minutes of the ride. After all, Hugh Jackman would probably get off at some fancy neighborhood in Manhattan. He would not have to ride much longer either. But the conversation around him was still going on. People were now debating whether celebrities deserved special treatment or whether everyone should be treated equally. Some people were sharing stories about times they had met famous people. Others were talking about their favorite Hugh Jackman movies. "I loved him in The Greatest Showman," one woman said. "He has such a beautiful singing voice." "What about Les Miserables?" another person added. "He made me cry in that one." "The X-Men movies are the best," a teenager said. "Wolverine is the coolest superhero ever." Marcus listened to all these conversations about movies he had never seen. It was clear that Hugh Jackman was very popular and had been in many different kinds of movies. People really did love him. Maybe Dorothy was right that he brought joy to millions of people, but Marcus still did not think that made the actor more deserving of a seat than anyone else. Everyone in the train car was a person with feelings, and the subway train was slowing down as it approached Marcus's station. He could see the platform lights through the dirty windows. Just a few more seconds and he would be able to get off this crowded train and away from all the drama about Hugh Jackman. Marcus put his hands on his knees, getting ready to stand up when the doors opened. But then something happened that made him stop and listen. A young man who had been standing quietly near the back of the train car suddenly spoke up. He had been watching Hugh Jackman for the whole ride, but he had not said anything until now. "Excuse me," the young man said, walking closer to Hugh Jackman. "I'm really sorry to bother you, but are you really—" He paused, looking nervous. "Are you really Hugh Jackman?" Hugh Jackman looked at the young man for a moment. Marcus could see the actor's face clearly now, even with the sunglasses and baseball cap. The man looked tired, but he also looked kind. He had the kind of face that seemed friendly and approachable, even when he was trying to hide. Hugh Jackman nodded slowly. "Yes," he said quietly. "I am." The entire train car went silent for a moment. Even though many people had already guessed who he was, hearing him confirm it was different. It made it real. There really was a famous movie star standing right there in the subway car with all of them. Then the excitement exploded. People started talking all at once. Some were calling their friends on their phones. Others were taking pictures. A few people started clapping. The teenage girl who had asked for a photo earlier looked like she might faint from excitement. But Hugh Jackman held up his hand, asking for quiet. "Please," he said. "I know this is exciting, but I'm just trying to get home. I've had a really long day of filming and I'm exhausted." Filming. Marcus thought about that word. So Hugh Jackman really had been working all day, just like Marcus. But what kind of work was filming a movie? Marcus imagined it was probably easy work. Standing around in nice clothes, saying some lines, taking breaks whenever you wanted. Not like carrying cement bags up 30 flights of stairs. A woman near the door raised her hand like she was in school. "Can I ask what you're filming?" she said. "I promise I won't tell anyone." Hugh Jackman smiled a little. Even though he was tired, he seemed patient with his fans. "I can't really talk about it," he said. "But it's been a very long shoot. We started at 4 this morning and we've been filming action scenes all day." 4 in the morning? Marcus was surprised. That was even earlier than his workday started. And action scenes sounded like they might be physically demanding. Maybe making movies was harder work than Marcus had thought. The young man who had first asked Hugh Jackman to confirm his identity was still standing nearby. He looked like he wanted to ask more questions. "I'm studying film in college," the young man said. "I've always wondered what it's like to do your own stunts." "Do you really do all the fighting scenes yourself?" Hugh Jackman nodded. "I do as many as I can," he said. "The insurance company doesn't let me do the really dangerous stuff, but I like to do the physical work myself. It makes the performance more authentic. Physical work." Marcus was starting to understand that maybe acting was not as easy as he had thought. If Hugh Jackman was doing fight scenes and stunts, then he was probably using his body and getting tired, just like Marcus did at his construction job. "Doesn't that hurt?" a teenager asked. "Like, don't you get bruises and stuff?" "Oh yes," Hugh Jackman said, laughing a little. "I'm covered in bruises right now, and my back is killing me. We did this scene today where I had to jump off a building onto a moving truck. Even with all the safety equipment, it was rough." Marcus felt a strange feeling in his stomach. Hugh Jackman was talking about having a sore back, just like Marcus had a sore back. The actor was tired from physical work, just like Marcus was tired from physical work. Maybe they were not so different after all. An older man in the train car spoke up. "I heard you do all kinds of movies," he said. "Not just action films. My wife loves musicals and she says you're a great singer." "Thank you," Hugh Jackman said. "Yes, I try to do different kinds of projects. Acting, singing, dancing. It keeps things interesting." But it also means I'm constantly learning new skills and pushing my body in different ways. Dancing. Marcus had never thought about how hard dancing might be. He had tried to dance with Maria at her cousin's wedding last year, and he had been exhausted after just a few songs. If Hugh Jackman was a professional dancer, that meant he probably worked out and trained his body just like an athlete. A woman with a kind voice asked, "Do you ever get tired of being famous? Like, do you ever just want to be a regular person?" Hugh Jackman thought about that question for a moment. "Sometimes," he said honestly. "Don't get me wrong, I'm very grateful for my career and my fans, but sometimes I just want to ride the subway home without anyone noticing me. I want to feel normal and connected to real people." Real people. Marcus realized that Hugh Jackman was talking about people like him. The actor wanted to be around regular working people, not just other celebrities. That was why he was riding the subway instead of taking a taxi. He was trying to stay connected to the real world. "Is that why you take the subway?" someone asked, as if they were reading Marcus's thoughts. "Partly," Hugh Jackman said. "I grew up in a working-class family. My father was a laborer and my mother cleaned houses. They taught me to respect hard work and to never forget where I came from. When I ride the subway, I remember that everyone has their own struggles and their own important work to do." Marcus felt his heart skip a beat. Hugh Jackman's father was a laborer, just like Marcus was a laborer. The actor understood what it was like to come from a family that worked hard for their money. He was not just some spoiled rich person who had never done real work. A construction worker who had been listening to the conversation spoke up. "That's cool, man," he said. "Respect for that. Most famous people forget about us regular folks." "Never," Hugh Jackman said firmly. "My father used to come home exhausted every day, just like you probably do. He taught me that honest work is something to be proud of, no matter what kind of work it is." Marcus thought about his own father, who had also been a construction worker. His dad had worked hard his whole life to provide for Marcus and his sister. He had come home tired and sore every day, but he had never complained. He had always said that hard work was honorable work. The train was now pulling into Marcus's station. He could see people on the platform waiting to get on. But Marcus found himself not wanting to get off the train. He was learning things about Hugh Jackman that surprised him. The actor was not what Marcus had expected at all. "I have to ask," said Dorothy, the elderly woman who had criticized Marcus earlier. "With all your success, why do you still choose to live like a regular person? Why take the subway when you could afford anything?" Hugh Jackman smiled. "Because this is real life," he said. "These are real people with real problems and real dreams. When I'm on a movie set, everyone treats me like I'm special. But here, I'm just another tired guy trying to get home, and that keeps me grounded. It reminds me that everyone deserves respect and kindness, regardless of their job or how much money they make. Everyone deserves respect and kindness." Marcus felt those words hit him like a punch to the stomach. Hugh Jackman was saying that everyone deserved kindness, including Marcus, but also including Hugh Jackman himself. Marcus had not been kind when the actor asked for his seat. He had been rude and dismissive. The train doors opened at Marcus's station. People started getting off and new people started getting on. Marcus should have stood up and left the train. This was his stop. Maria was waiting for him at home, but he could not move. He was thinking about everything Hugh Jackman had said. The actor really had been working since 4 in the morning. He really was physically tired from doing stunts and action scenes. He really did respect working people like Marcus. And he really was just trying to get home to rest, just like Marcus was trying to get home to rest. Marcus looked up at Hugh Jackman, who was still standing right next to his seat. The actor was not looking at Marcus. He was looking toward the door, probably hoping that some of the crowd would get off at this station and give him more space. For the first time all day, Marcus felt truly ashamed of himself. Not because he had been rude to a celebrity, but because he had been rude to another human being who was tired and just wanted to sit down. Hugh Jackman had asked politely. He had not demanded special treatment. He had not mentioned that he was famous. He had just asked like any normal person would ask, and Marcus had said no, not because he really needed the seat more than Hugh Jackman did, but because he had judged the man by his expensive clothes. Marcus had assumed that Hugh Jackman was just another rich person who thought he was better than everyone else, but it turned out that Hugh Jackman was actually someone who respected working people and understood what hard work was like. The train doors started to close. Marcus realized that he had missed his stop. But somehow he did not care. He felt like he needed to hear more of what Hugh Jackman had to say. He needed to understand this person that he had been so quick to judge. A young woman who had just gotten on the train recognized Hugh Jackman immediately. "Oh my God," she said. "Are you Hugh Jackman?" "Yes," Hugh Jackman said patiently. Marcus sat in his seat staring up at Hugh Jackman, who was now standing without his baseball cap. The actor's hair was a little messy from wearing the hat all day. He looked even more tired than before, but also somehow happier after giving his hat to the woman for her sick brother. Marcus's mind was racing. He kept thinking about everything he had just learned about Hugh Jackman. The actor had grown up in a working-class family. His father had been a laborer, just like Marcus and his own father. Hugh Jackman had been working since 4 in the morning, just like Marcus had been working since 5. He was physically tired from doing stunts and action scenes. He had a sore back just like Marcus had a sore back. But most importantly, Hugh Jackman respected working people. He took the subway to stay connected to real people. He believed that everyone deserved kindness and respect, no matter what their job was or how much money they made. And he had just proven his kindness by giving his hat to a stranger for her sick brother. Marcus felt sick to his stomach. Not the kind of sick from eating bad food, but the kind of sick that comes from realizing you have done something really wrong. He had judged Hugh Jackman completely wrong. He had been rude to a good person who did not deserve it. Marcus tried to remember exactly what had happened when Hugh Jackman first asked for his seat. The actor had been polite. He had said, "Excuse me, and would you mind?" He had explained that he had a long day. He had not demanded the seat. He had not mentioned that he was famous. He had asked nicely, like any decent person would ask. And how had Marcus responded? He had been rude and dismissive. He had told Hugh Jackman to get in line, and had made it clear that he thought his own tiredness was more important than the actor's tiredness. Marcus had judged the man by his expensive clothes and had assumed he was just another entitled rich person. But Hugh Jackman was not entitled at all. When Marcus said no, the actor had simply said, "I understand and no problem." He had not argued. He had not gotten angry. He had not mentioned that he was a famous actor who deserved special treatment. He had just accepted Marcus's rudeness with grace and had found somewhere else to stand. Marcus thought about all the stories he had heard about Hugh Jackman's kindness. People always said he was one of the nicest celebrities in Hollywood. They said he treated everyone with respect, from the biggest movie stars to the people who brought him coffee on set. And Marcus had just experienced that kindness firsthand, even though he did not deserve it. The more Marcus thought about it, the worse he felt. He had always prided himself on being a good person. He worked hard. He loved his girlfriend Maria. He helped his neighbors when they needed it. He had been raised to treat people with respect. But today, when it really mattered, he had failed to be the person he thought he was. Marcus looked around the train car. People were still talking about meeting Hugh Jackman. Some were sharing stories about their favorite movies. Others were talking about how kind the actor had been to the woman with the sick brother. Everyone seemed happy and excited to have met someone famous who turned out to be genuinely nice. But Marcus did not feel happy or excited. He felt ashamed. While everyone else was having a positive experience with Hugh Jackman, Marcus had been the one person who was rude to him. He was the only person who had treated the actor badly. That thought made Marcus feel even worse. He tried to think of excuses for his behavior. He had been working for 12 hours. He was exhausted. His back hurt. His feet hurt. Mr. Rodriguez had yelled at him 3 times. He had every right to be tired and want to sit down. But those excuses did not make Marcus feel any better. Hugh Jackman had been working for even longer, since 4 in the morning. He was doing physical work too, with stunts and action scenes. He probably had people yelling at him too, like directors and producers. And despite all of that, Hugh Jackman had remained kind and polite to everyone. Marcus realized that being tired was not an excuse for being rude. Everyone on the subway was tired. Everyone had their own problems and stress. But most people still managed to be polite to each other. Hugh Jackman was tired too, but he had still been kind to the woman with the sick brother. He had given away his hat to make a child happy, even though it made him less comfortable. Marcus thought about what his father would say if he knew about this situation. His dad had always taught him to treat people with respect, especially people who were polite to him. You can tell a lot about a person by how they treat strangers, his father used to say. Good people are kind even when they don't have to be. What did Marcus's behavior say about him? He had been unkind to a stranger who had been polite to him. He had judged someone by their appearance without knowing anything about them. He had assumed the worst about Hugh Jackman instead of giving him the benefit of the doubt. Marcus also thought about what Maria would say. She always told him that kindness was the most important quality a person could have. Money and success don't matter if you're not kind, she would say. The way you treat people shows who you really are inside. Marcus had not been kind today. He had shown Hugh Jackman the worst side of himself. And the terrible irony was that Hugh Jackman had shown Marcus the best side of himself, even after being treated rudely. The train was now approaching the next station. Marcus realized he was getting farther and farther from home. He would have to take another train back to his neighborhood. The trip home was going to take much longer now. But somehow that did not seem important anymore. What seemed important was the fact that Marcus had missed an opportunity to be a good person. He had missed a chance to show kindness to someone who deserved it. And he had missed the opportunity to live up to his own values in the way he had been raised. Marcus looked up at Hugh Jackman again. The actor was still standing, holding onto the metal bar. He was talking quietly to the woman who had asked for the hat for her brother. They were discussing her brother's treatment, and Hugh Jackman was giving her encouragement. Even though he was tired, he was taking time to comfort a stranger who was worried about her family. This made Marcus feel even worse about himself. Not only had he been rude to Hugh Jackman, but he had been rude to someone who was genuinely caring and compassionate. Hugh Jackman was the kind of person who made the world a better place. And Marcus had treated him badly. Marcus tried to imagine what it would have been like if he had said yes when Hugh Jackman asked for his seat. The actor would have been grateful. He would have sat down and rested his sore back. Maybe they would have had a conversation. Maybe Marcus would have learned about Hugh Jackman's background and realized they had more in common than he thought. Instead, Marcus had made Hugh Jackman stand for the entire trip. The actor's back was probably hurting even more now. His feet were probably sore. And all because Marcus had been too quick to judge and too stubborn to reconsider. Marcus also realized that his rudeness had affected other people on the train. Dorothy, the elderly woman, had been disappointed in Marcus. She had expected him to be more polite and considerate. Other passengers had also noticed his behavior. They probably thought less of him now. But worse than what other people thought was what Marcus thought about himself. He had always believed he was a good person, but today he had proven otherwise. He had shown that when he was tired and stressed, he could be just as selfish and judgmental as anyone else. The worst part was that Marcus knew he could not take it back. He could not undo his rudeness. He could not go back in time and make a different choice. The moment was gone, and Hugh Jackman would remember Marcus as the rude construction worker who refused to give up his seat. Marcus felt tears starting to form in his eyes. He was not the kind of man who cried easily, but the shame and regret were overwhelming. He had disappointed himself in a way that he had never experienced before. He had failed to be the person he wanted to be. The train was slowing down again. More people were getting on and off. The crowd around Hugh Jackman was changing, but there were still plenty of people who wanted to talk to him or take pictures. The actor continued to be patient and kind with everyone, even though he was clearly exhausted. Marcus watched Hugh Jackman interact with his fans and felt a deep sadness. This was a good man who brought joy to people's lives. He made movies that entertained millions of people. He helped sick children feel brave. He treated everyone with respect, from celebrities to construction workers. And Marcus had been rude to him for no good reason. Marcus knew that he had to do something. He could not just sit there feeling sorry for himself. He had to try to make things right, even if it was too late to completely fix what he had done. He had to at least try to apologize and show Hugh Jackman that he was not normally such a rude person. But Marcus was scared. What if Hugh Jackman did not accept his apology? What if the actor thought Marcus was only apologizing because he found out he was famous? What if Marcus just made things worse by trying to talk to him? Despite his fears, Marcus knew he had to try. His father had always taught him to take responsibility for his mistakes. When you do something wrong, his dad used to say, you admit it, you apologize, and you try to do better next time. Marcus took a deep breath and started to stand up from his seat. His legs felt shaky, not from being tired. Marcus stood up from his seat slowly. His legs felt weak, not from the long day of work, but from nervousness. His heart was beating fast, like it did when he had to carry heavy cement bags up many flights of stairs. But this was a different kind of hard work. This was the hard work of admitting you were wrong. As soon as Marcus stood up, several people in the train car noticed. Some of them looked at the empty seat, wondering if they could sit down. Others looked at Marcus, curious about what he was going to do. A few people seemed to understand that something important was about to happen. Marcus took a step toward Hugh Jackman. The actor was still talking to the woman about her sick brother, giving her advice about staying positive during difficult times. Marcus waited for a moment, not wanting to interrupt their conversation. He could hear Hugh Jackman's voice clearly now. "The most important thing is to let Tommy know how much you love him," Hugh Jackman was saying. "Children are stronger than we think, but they need to feel supported. And don't forget to take care of yourself too. It's hard to help someone else if you're not okay." Marcus was struck by how genuine Hugh Jackman sounded. The actor was not just giving quick, shallow advice. He was really thinking about this woman's situation and trying to help her. Marcus could see that Hugh Jackman truly cared about people, even strangers he had just met on a subway train. When their conversation ended, the woman thanked Hugh Jackman again and moved back to where she had been standing. She was holding his baseball cap carefully, like it was made of gold. Marcus knew that cap would mean everything to her sick brother. Now Hugh Jackman was standing alone, holding onto the metal bar. He looked tired and was probably hoping for a few minutes of quiet. But Marcus knew he had to speak up. If he waited any longer, he might lose his courage. "Sir," Marcus said, his voice shaking a little. "Excuse me, sir." Hugh Jackman turned to look at Marcus. The actor's face showed mild surprise. He was probably not expecting the man who had refused to give him a seat to start a conversation. "Yes?" Hugh Jackman said politely. Even though Marcus had been rude to him, the actor's voice was still kind and patient. Marcus felt his throat get tight. The words he wanted to say seemed stuck inside him. He had practiced apologies before, like when he made mistakes at work or had arguments with Maria. But this felt much harder. This felt like the most important apology he had ever had to make. "I'm really sorry about before," Marcus finally managed to say. "I didn't recognize you, but honestly, that's no excuse for being rude." Hugh Jackman's expression softened. He looked genuinely surprised by Marcus's apology. "Oh," he said, "you don't need to apologize because of who I am. You didn't know." "No," Marcus said, shaking his head. "That's exactly the point. It shouldn't matter who you are. You asked politely and I was rude to you. That was wrong no matter what." Marcus could see that Hugh Jackman was really listening to him now. The actor's eyes showed respect for what Marcus was saying. It was clear that Hugh Jackman understood the difference between apologizing because someone was famous and apologizing because you had done something wrong. "I heard what you said about your father being a laborer," Marcus continued. "My dad was in construction too. He taught me to treat people with respect, especially when they're polite to me. I failed to do that today and I'm ashamed of myself." Hugh Jackman nodded slowly. "We all have bad days," he said. "What matters is that you're thinking about it now." "You were working since 4 a.m, Marcus said. "I was working since 5. We were both tired. But you stayed kind to everyone even after I was rude to you. That says something about the kind of person you are. And this apology says something about the kind of person you are," Hugh Jackman replied. "It takes courage to admit when you're wrong." Marcus felt a little bit of the weight lift from his chest. Hugh Jackman was not angry with him. The actor was actually being kind about the apology, just like he had been kind about everything else. "Please," Marcus said, gesturing toward the seat he had been sitting in. "Take my seat. I know you're tired and you've been standing this whole time because of me." Hugh Jackman looked at the empty seat, then back at Marcus. He smiled. And it was a real smile, not the polite smile he had been giving to fans all evening. "That's very kind of you," Hugh Jackman said. "But I'm actually getting off at the next stop. Thank you, though. That means a lot." Marcus felt disappointed that he could not do more to make up for his rudeness, but he also felt relieved that Hugh Jackman was being so understanding about everything. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said. "Why do you take the subway? I mean, you could probably afford to take a taxi or have a driver." Hugh Jackman seemed happy to answer the question. "I could," he said. But this is real life. When I'm on a movie set, everyone treats me like I'm special. But here, I'm just another person trying to get home. It keeps me grounded. But people recognize you, Marcus pointed out. Like today. Everyone was excited to see you. That's true, Hugh Jackman said. But even that is good for me. It reminds me how lucky I am to have fans who care about my work. And it reminds me that I have a responsibility to be kind to people, because my behavior affects how they see the world. Marcus thought about that. He had never considered that famous people might feel responsible for setting a good example. But it made sense. If children looked up to Hugh Jackman because of his movies, then the actor's behavior in real life mattered too. I think I understand, Marcus said. You could have been rude to me after I refused to give you my seat. But you didn't, you stayed polite. Exactly, Hugh Jackman said. If I had gotten angry or demanded special treatment, what would that have taught everyone watching? But more importantly, what would it have said about me as a person? Marcus realized that Hugh Jackman had been teaching him a lesson without even trying. The actor had shown that you could stay kind and respectful, even when other people were not kind to you. That was a much better way to handle conflict than getting angry or trying to get revenge. Hugh Jackman extended his hand to Marcus. I'm Hugh, he said, as if they were meeting for the first time. Marcus shook his hand. I'm Marcus, he said. Marcus Thompson. I work construction. Nice to meet you, Marcus, Hugh Jackman said. What kind of construction do you do? Marcus was surprised that Hugh Jackman wanted to know about his work. Most people, especially rich or famous people, did not care about construction work. They saw it as unimportant or boring. I work on office buildings mostly, Marcus said. Right now we're building a 30-story building in Manhattan. I carry cement and steel up the stairs because the elevator is always broken. That sounds like really hard work, Hugh Jackman said, and he sounded like he meant it. 30 stories? That must be exhausting. It is, Marcus admitted. My back and legs hurt every day. But it's honest work, like you said about your father. Marcus and Hugh Jackman continued talking as the subway train moved through the tunnel. For the first time all day, Marcus forgot about how tired he was. He forgot about Mr. Rodriguez yelling at him. He forgot about the heavy cement bags and the 30 flights of stairs. He was having a real conversation with someone who seemed genuinely interested in his life and his work. Do you enjoy construction work? Hugh Jackman asked. I know it's hard, but do you find it satisfying? Marcus thought about the question. Most people never asked him if he enjoyed his job. They just assumed it was something he had to do to make money, but Hugh Jackman seemed to really want to know. Sometimes I do, Marcus said honestly. When we finish a building and I can look up and see something I helped create, that feels good. It feels like I made something that will last for a long time. People will work in that building, maybe for decades. I helped make that possible. Hugh Jackman nodded with understanding. That's how I feel about movies, he said. When I see a child wearing a Wolverine costume, or when someone tells me that one of my films helped them through a difficult time, I remember why I love acting. We're both creating things that matter to people. Marcus had never thought about his construction work, and Hugh Jackman's acting work being similar. But the actor was right. They were both creating things that affected other people's lives. Buildings and movies were different, but they both served important purposes. I never thought about it that way, Marcus said. I guess we both build things. You build stories and I build buildings. Exactly, Hugh Jackman said, smiling. And both kinds of building require hard work, dedication, and skill. The train began to slow down as it approached the next station. Hugh Jackman looked toward the window and then back at Marcus. This is my stop, Hugh Jackman said. But before I go, I want to tell you something. Marcus waited, curious about what the actor wanted to say. You know, Hugh Jackman said, we all have tough days. We all get tired and stressed, and sometimes we don't act like our best selves. What matters is how we treat each other, especially when we're at our worst. Marcus felt those words sink deep into his heart. Hugh Jackman was talking about exactly what had happened between them. Marcus had been at his worst, tired and stressed from a hard day of work, and he had not treated Hugh Jackman well. But the actor was showing him grace and understanding. Today you were tired from working hard, Hugh Jackman continued. I was tired from working hard too. The difference is that I've had years of practice staying patient when I'm exhausted, because people are always watching me. But you apologized when you realized you could have been kinder. That tells me who you really are inside. The train doors opened with a hiss. People started getting off and new people started getting on. Hugh Jackman prepared to leave, but he was not finished talking to Marcus. "Can I give you some advice?" Hugh Jackman asked. "Something my father taught me when I was young?" "Of course," Marcus said. He was eager to hear anything that Hugh Jackman's father had taught him. If Hugh Jackman had learned to be so kind and patient, maybe Marcus could learn those things too. "My father used to say that you never know what someone else is going through," Hugh Jackman said. "The person who seems rude might be having the worst day of their life. The person who looks successful might be struggling with problems you can't see. Everyone you meet is fighting some kind of battle." Marcus thought about that advice. It was true that he did not know what Hugh Jackman had been going through today. The actor had been working since 4 in the morning, doing physical stunts that left him bruised and sore. He was probably under pressure from directors and producers. He might have his own personal problems that Marcus knew nothing about. "So the best thing we can do," Hugh Jackman continued, "is to treat everyone with kindness, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, because kindness is free, but it can change someone's entire day." The train doors started making a warning sound, letting people know they were about to close. Hugh Jackman needed to get off now or he would miss his stop. "Thank you," Marcus said quickly, "for everything. For being so understanding about my rudeness. For talking to me like I matter. For teaching me something important." Hugh Jackman smiled one last time. "You do matter, Marcus. Your work matters. Your kindness matters. Don't forget that." Hugh Jackman stepped off the train just as the doors closed. Marcus watched him through the window as the train started moving again. The actor walked across the platform and several people recognized him and asked for pictures. But Hugh Jackman was patient with all of them, just like he had been patient with everyone on the train. Marcus sat back down in his seat, but now it felt different. The seat did not feel like something he had won or deserved more than anyone else. It felt like a gift that he could share with others when they needed it. The train car was less crowded now. Many people had gotten off at Hugh Jackman's stop, probably hoping to follow him and get more pictures. The remaining passengers were mostly quiet, reading their phones or looking out the windows. Marcus thought about everything that had happened. He had started the evening as a tired, grumpy construction worker who was rude to a stranger. But he was ending the evening as someone who had learned important lessons about kindness, judgment, and what it really meant to be a good person. Marcus realized that Hugh Jackman had given him a gift that was much more valuable than an autograph or a photo. The actor had given him wisdom and understanding. He had shown Marcus how to handle conflict with grace. He had taught Marcus that everyone deserves respect, regardless of their job or social status. Most importantly, Hugh Jackman had shown Marcus that it was never too late to apologize and try to do better. Even when you mess up, even when you act in a way that disappoints yourself, you can still choose to be better in the next moment. Marcus thought about all the people he would interact with in the coming days. His co-workers at the construction site, his boss, Mr. Rodriguez, strangers on the subway, people in stores and restaurants. He realized that he had the power to make each of those interactions a little bit better by choosing kindness. The train reached Marcus's original station. This time he got off. As he walked up the stairs from the subway platform, Marcus thought about how he would tell Maria about this experience. She would be amazed that he had met Hugh Jackman. But Marcus knew that the real story was not about meeting a celebrity. The real story was about learning to be a better person. When Marcus got home, Maria was waiting with dinner, just like he had hoped. She asked him about his day, and for the first time in a long time, Marcus had something interesting to tell her. "I learned something important today," Marcus said as they sat down to eat. "I learned that being tired or stressed is never an excuse for being unkind to people. And I learned that everyone deserves respect, no matter who they are or what they do for work." Maria listened to the whole story with amazement. She was proud of Marcus for apologizing to Hugh Jackman, even though it must have been difficult and embarrassing. "You know what this means?" Maria said when Marcus finished his story. "What?" Marcus asked. "It means you're growing as a person. It means you're becoming the kind of man who admits his mistakes and tries to do better. That's the kind of person I want to be with." From that day forward, Marcus carried Hugh Jackman's advice with him everywhere he went. When Mr. Rodriguez yelled at him at work, Marcus remembered that his boss might be under pressure from his own supervisors. When strangers were rude to him on the subway, Marcus remembered that they might be having the worst day of their lives. Marcus started offering his seat to people who looked tired, regardless of how tired he was himself. He started saying please and thank you more often. He started treating everyone he met with the same respect he would want for himself. The experience with Hugh Jackman had changed Marcus in a way that would last for the rest of his life. He had learned that true strength was not about being tough or stubborn. True strength was about being kind, especially when kindness was difficult. Marcus never saw Hugh Jackman again, but he thought about him often. Whenever Marcus faced a situation where he could choose between kindness and selfishness, he remembered the actor's words. Everyone you meet is fighting some kind of battle, and Marcus chose kindness every time.